hit all the buttons. Make sure I get everything. Oh god, I can close that. Where is... Oh, it's over here on this side. Is it anything? Yes, it did.
Oop.
It's okay, I'm just messing with stuff. Trying to get my screen set up because I'm not prepared. That can go right there.
I'll post this in a few of the Discords.
Oh, the Twitch stream?
Yeah, like southeast.
Okay. Put it in ours because sometimes people don't know.
Fair. Thunderdome chat. We're gonna have to rename that soon. Thunderdome's over.
I like Doom Kitty. Like I don't know why we went away from Doom Kitty, and it pisses off Barncat. I keep getting messages from people like, "Why does Barncat hate you?" I'm like, he doesn't hate me. He doesn't hate me.
Doom Kitty chat. Oh, maybe Doom Kitty just chatting.
The Doom Kitty's just chatting.
Doom Kitty just chatting.
Yeah, I gotta figure out if I'm gonna be taking out Ultron or keep him in there. I think it's fine without Hood. I probably don't need the wide option. I don't know.
I feel like the wide option is going to come in handy on like 18 mutant madman stuff.
That's the thing, is like it's But I think Bifrost is good enough. I think Bifrost is good enough to shore that up.
Might be. I don't know. I'm not going to get the reps in with Mal that I want to get before AshCon.
Fair
I just
enough.
kind of reconciled myself to it at this point, where it's like, I don't know. If he comes with me, he's going to be like a pretty piece on my tray.
That's right. He's here for looks.
He's here for you to be scared of. I was also talking with my local guys about like how I feel like Malekith is in the same kind of position as like, say, like Hulk, Corvus, Thanos, where good or bad, if you win a game, you won because you brought that model in the eyes of your opponent. And if you lose a game, it's because they're amazing and they beat you, right? So like you won because you brought something that they think is OP and you rolled dice. And you rolled dice real good. And they're going to be like, you just won't go do this.
But there's so much more to Malekith than that. It's such a brain tussle. Like he's not as easy to pilot as like people who haven't piloted him yet think he is. Like there's constant brain struggles of like target priority that you have to maintain.
Yeah. And how do you get the most out of a 7-threat model with 2 actions and maybe a throw?
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a brain bender. And then on top of that, like I feel like he excels at killing models on the weaker side, like just taking out models that are like cheap or fragile.
Anybody who's asking like, hey, I'm gonna start playing Mal, what do you have for suggestions? I'm like, he's a bully. Treat him like a bully. Like, don't send him after the 6 threats. Don't send him after the 5 threats. He's a bully.
Yep.
The only high threat character that I think he can reliably take out is Juggernaut.
Sure.
And I think he's good in Dormammu. And I think he's actually good into Thanos because Thanos is only 3 defense and Vuln 1. So like, I love taking him into Thanos to get him to his backside early. And then people are like, "Oh, you one-shot Thanos." I'm like, "It's Mal." Once people start respecting his threat range, though, it won't be as bad. But I guess we should probably get started. People can listen to the pre-ramble. The tangent before the show even starts. Here you guys go for anybody who's here.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Maximum effort.
Welcome back to another week of the Rogue Agents. We hope you guys enjoyed last week's little special episode. We had the interview with the Wills, so that was fun. We're trying to get back into a swing of things. Hyper is not going to be here again because scheduling conflicts. Again, we moved the day for him, and then he's not here. Love it. But no, we gotta give him flack when we can, so it's okay. Anybody who's part of the Rogue Agent Discord, just go ahead and just at Hyper shame.
Just let him know how much you miss him.
Yeah.
Middle school style.
Yeah. Throw rocks. But no, we're going to figure it out eventually. One of these days we'll have it where we are actually consistent. I think we're going to try and stick with Wednesdays, except for next week. Because it's my wife's birthday. So I won't be here next week. So we might just do the episode a little bit early. Might do it on Sunday again. We don't know. We're going to figure it out. But eventually we will have a consistent schedule for you guys. And we're sorry, not sorry. Yes. All right. As normal, we're going to do the big thanks to our patrons. We got Big Blake, Brad, P-Terra Game, Gronko, it says Rory. I can never... God damn, I'm sorry.
Rory.
Cliz?
I had to just mess it up.
Clismo.
Clismo.
Tim. Neek. J. Rowe. Ronald the Accuser. I want to say Ronald McDonald every time I see that. Running Around. Sure Fox. Sure Thing. Nathan. I'm about to go on the next part too. But thanks guys for supporting us and supporting us. The last show that we had, I think, was the patron rewards. You hope you guys saw that. We're not gonna be doing that on the show anymore. We're kind of do behind the scenes, just so we're not like, hey, look, But so far, B Terra, he got his shirt. He says he loves it. So he said he'd be repping it at the game store this week. So That's pretty awesome. And yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into it. We had some big news come out over the last week. I guess like 2 weeks now. The cards for Winter Guard came out. Those were pretty sweet. We saw panel to play for Cap. And I think that was it. Panel to play for somebody else. Probably it was Strucker, maybe. I don't remember. We don't read cards anyways. We're talking about them. I will say though,
I'm so miserable with this panel of plays. I'm just like, oh, this is cool. I read like the first sentence, and I'm like, wait, where's the card? Ah, there it is.
I don't even read this. I don't even read the first sentence anymore. I just scroll right to the card, and I'm like, oh, there we go.
I like the tone they write them in, but I don't always need all the fluff. Like, give me the facts.
Absolutely, but I will say, I think the Winter Guards cards are actually pretty cool, especially the set that we got today. Like those were like, ooh, the Heroes for Hire for Red Guardian. I like it. I think it's pretty dope.
Yeah, I think his 5 health and 3 defensive dice give that card some interesting situational play. I'll call it. I'm excited to try it. I'm actually really excited for all the Winter Guard stuff now that it's all kind of there. I definitely rode the wave of Winter Guard excitement where it was like, I want the Winter Guard. That's super cool. And then I caught the hype, the bear hype train with Hyper Viper. And then once his hype train kind of died down on the bear, because it was just, a bear instead of like the super bear that he wanted it to be.
A bear versus a bear.
I was like, all right, and I moved on to Malekith, and now that everything's out, like there's something that the Winter Guard cards, I've said this on the internet a few places now, but these Winter Guard cards really nailed that Cold War kid feel for me, where it's just like they're on face value, they seem like worse than whatever their American counterpart is, right? And then you look at it, you're like, but it's still scary. So I'm excited to see these things.
I'm not gonna lie, I think Bear Hug's pretty cool. Like it's a trap. It's a trap card. You activated my trap card.
Great early gameplay.
It is. Yeah, like it's huge.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be super cool. But like I'm gonna Bear Hug. Like what? Like good luck moving. You want to pay 3 power to move, or are you gonna sit here?
Right.
I think it's cool. I think all these cards are cool. The ones that came out today, even Silver and Strike. Like it's really not that bad against like a team like Mags, because then you're getting rid of a size 4 for 3 power. Like it's really not that bad.
Hey, there's finally a sabotage effect that doesn't take an action. I mean that's how everybody tries to play the sabotage effects anyway. They're like, all right, I double move Mystique here and I blow that up, and you're like, see that? That's its action right there.
You can't move twice. You're wrong.
But I love that it's anybody, and I love that it's not an action. I think that's well worth the extra power cost for that kind of flexibility.
I mean, like Dynamo could really just power up and pop it if you want to, and then it costs an action. But
Right?
but anyways,
Great trade. There we go. Nailed it.
cards are cool.
Again.
I think Winter Guard's pretty sweet. Like I still think Winter Force could be a thing, but I'm just so getting it like prep done for Malekith Nova that I can't get distracted right now at the moment. I'm going full competitive for Nova. I mean, I'm gonna have a fun time and have good games, but I'm gonna try to win. We're gonna see what happens. That's the goal of Nova for me. What about you? You're going to Nova too. What's your goal for Nova?
I don't even know. Honestly, like Nova's kind of a little bit up in the air for me right now. The way that, plans with children can change things. I gotta kind of double check on that.
Oh no.
If I go to Nova, no. Especially because I'm pretty sure I'm past all the cutoffs now.
Yeah.
So my plan to go to Nova is probably just to make it to Nova and come home to a happy family.
I hope this wasn't one of those like, hey, remember I have like 2 events that I'm traveling to in the next 2 months. Did you forget? Oh, you did.
Maybe. Okay.
Oh, I didn't tell you.
We'll see where it
what
goes.
You're saying.
We'll see where it goes. I'm pretty sure I did that. Nah, it'll be good. I don't have anything locked in right now. I've been playing Asgard again, kind of casually, locally, because I just enjoy that setup.
Yeah,
I like the flip secures. I like the big dice pools where you're just like whatever. I think I rolled like. So last night I got to play an Asgard game, and I swear the only person on my team who did anything was Toad rolled a lot of blocks and stayed alive, and Heimdall had 2 forefend kills on Zemo, where like Zemo would charge in, and he was just like, "What if you just got hacked down instead?"
I know we're kind of slow to roll today, but Heimdall's great. Like I see a lot of people say like, oh, he's like great in Avengers, but that's about it. Like I don't know where else really wants to take Scourge over Heimdall. I'm like Heimdall's a boss in Asgard. Like I don't know. Like he's so much fun to play. Asgard right now is super fun.
Using him,
yeah,
it really is. They're really fun.
Yeah, like I played them for the first half of the league. My games didn't go great. My lead up to the league went great, but then like in the league it was terrible. But like Asgard's super fun right now. If anybody's like on the fence about playing Asgard, I'd highly recommend it. Just honestly take the Asgards minus Hela. I mean play Hela if you want.
Sorry, Hela.
Play Hela if you want. It's just she's in a weird spot right now where she doesn't quite do what the team needs her to do for that slot. Is kind of my like, and you're never gonna be taking that many fours. It's hard to argue for her. Like she's not terrible. She's great at extracts, but it's hard to take her when you have something like Loki and Enchantress in Affiliation already. So it's hard to take her. But play her if you want. We're not gonna dissuade you from playing Hela. I think she's fine. She's just
hey, medium base, medium move, 2 power return. Like she can pick something up and
soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the what we call the meat and potatoes. Is that what TT says?
Topic. Get to the topic.
Well, first off, challenge of the week. We're gonna shame everybody who's in the Discord and listen to the episode of the interview because Pagani challenged everybody to make a bleed and blade list. Bleeding blade. I don't know what you want to call it. And we only got two submissions. There was 2 from Gronko, so technically we got 3. But there was 2 different people that submitted a roster, so shame. I'll shame us too. Shame finger guns. And shame me.
I didn't. Usually we don't compete in these things, but I think that would have been probably, since we weren't picking, it might have been a good one.
Fair.
That's all right. Did he ever get back to you? Did you get the response?
No, he didn't. He didn't respond. Right. But we're gonna leave the challenge open another week, and hopefully we get some more submissions in there, and next week we'll actually be able to take a contest. Do we want to talk about people voting on challenge of the week, or do you want to find that out first?
I think this is going to need some refinement, but I think the general idea is that we'd like to see everybody start voting on challenge of the week stuff, because we can pick it and that's fun. Like, we pick it and we talk about it, but I think that it might be pretty cool to start setting up like a community winner as well with the project. So then once we finally get this thing really on its feet and we start playing some of these rosters against each other, we can have like, the people's champion kind of roster. So like you could, pick one of those or something. So yeah, definitely a ton to hammer out still, but please start voting. I don't care what you, react with, but like anything that's like remotely positive or uncertain, it's going to be a positive vote. And if it's like a straight up thumbs down or like a negative symbol, then, it just won't count for anything.
Absolutely.
That's
all
what
right.
I'd say.
So yeah, let's get in there and get Pagani's challenge. Some love. All right. So main topic. We've been talking about this leading up to it for quite a few weeks now. That we're going to be going into a series on crises. So Sam, do you want to give a rundown about what the series will be about?
So I think that there's a lot of gold to kind of dig from the core set's crises. And right now, I think that we haven't had a crisis released in a while. And so I think a lot of people have leaned into some E shapes or leaned into the flip secures as a package or been playing I call them potatoes. Some people call them singletons, RNG, whatever, the big three, your Kree, your alien ship, and your senators, right? Where it's a single extracts. So what I wanted to do here, and what I hope we can accomplish for you, the listener, is I want to do some deep dives on core crises because I think that there's a strong case for just building rosters around the core crises and how that can really open up some play patterns for you that you might not be completely familiar with, but also can apply to the wider crisis pool in general. So yeah,
right.
that's the idea here. So we're going to talk kind of like core concepts, more so than like this is how you play on this crisis. It's going to be more like, hey, so these are some play patterns that we think we see on this crisis, and then this is how those same play patterns kind of translate to some other crises that are also in the game and maybe not in the core set.
Yeah. All right, so tonight we're going to start off with some concepts and definitions before we dive into Infinity Formula, which will be our first one. So some things we want to talk about is just basically, I guess, things we're going to hit on while we talk about these crises, just to establish baselines. A lot of this is stuff that everybody probably already knows, unless you're like a newer player, you're trying to wrap your head around crises. So we figured might as well hit it. So a big thing to think about is your shape considerations. You got the B's, the C's, the D's, the E's, and the F's. And we're talking about mostly for secures right now, because there's no A-type secures at the moment of the game. And biggest thing to consider when it comes to this is like, if you're looking at like a B shape, you got to take like your squad and say, well, if I'm playing, I'm just going to say Malekith because I'm off of X-Force, not Malekith. If you're playing Malekith, a B shape is actually a big struggle point for him because he's a big chunk investment, and then you're kind of stuck with like, well, am I going 4 wide or do I need to go like a bunch of 3s as much as I can and make this 3 wide so I can actually do stuff on the secures? So that's something you need to consider versus something like an E or a C where things are fairly central and you're able to get away. You're good in Midnight Suns. Where you can get away with going more narrow because the fight's gonna be central. You don't need to spread out to get the points. You're pretty much all right there. So that's a big thing when it comes to consideration with shapes is how many models do I need to actually play this scenario? And some can actually get away with it. Like you're a big Thanos player. Like if you see a B, you probably still go 3 wide because you have so much control.
Outside of Mutant Madman, yeah, probably. Like you want to probably just line up on one side and go into it. And so, I mean, that's some of the things that we'll also talk about are, words like flank or abandon or rotations, quadrants, stands, flips, columns, fast, slow, central.
And points. Don't forget
some of these
points.
Are real obvious. And points. Yeah, points are important. Points are actually how you win this game, like 99 out of 100 games.
Only 99?
I mean, I got tabled last week.
That's fair. All right. Let's go ahead and just jump into Infinity Formula. So Infinity Formula, it is a 17 threat secure of the B variety. So this is what we're talking about. Like when you're looking at the B shape for Infinity Formula, is there like a standard squad like size that you prefer to play on this on, or do you think it not matters for Infinity?
I think it depends on your roster and what you like to bring. I think that 17 is a point value or a threat value that you should be really comfortable at playing Crisis Protocol, because the vast majority of games wind up getting played somewhere around the ballpark of 17, with most of them actually being played at 17. So you want to have a team that you're real comfortable with at 17. And so with Infinity Formula, two of the things that stood out when we first started looking at this is that this is a stand-on secure, and this is columns. It's going to split the board into two different sides, which are basically their own little battles. And you're going to have to stand on these things to score those points. So I wouldn't say that you need a certain squad size, but you definitely want to understand your game plan and your approach. You need to have enough models to score the points that you need, which may or may not include putting a token resistance on one side and the main force on the other, splitting your force completely into two, or yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, that's not it. That's not it. I've been trying to do this for so long, and you know this, because I know I played into you, and you're like, what are you doing? Stop. When you just go everybody one side and swarm one side and just wipe it out.
Yeah.
And now there is one character who I think can actually pull this off, that being Malekith, because he's bringing Bifrost, which comes into consideration. Like, what if Defenders could actually do this too? Because nobody really explored that type of game, as far as I know, with Defenders, where they just swarm one side and then they pentagrams over to the other side and just basically cut it in half. Because if you think about it, if it's a B shape, most scenarios, other than, let's say, Kree Senators, Scroll, and Researcher, like, you're really not being screwed over, because you're going to be able to get the points you probably would be getting anyways on extracts. Like, if it's an F extract, you just push harder and you take their home extract and your home extract. And if, like, the middle is always a gamble anyways, but it's like, why not just grab the middle and toe off to one side? And this is kind of my game plan with, like, Malekith, is like, I think he's actually somebody who could take one of the columns, take everything out, hopefully by round 3, drop Bifrost, go over to the other side, and then with the VP disparity, you probably aren't that far behind to where you're able to just start smacking the other side, and they're already down 3 characters. So it's something I've been trying out. So far, it's worked out in practice. But I've been trying to do something like this pretty much for a long time, and I think Malekith is one of the first ones that can actually pull it off. I'm curious. I didn't think about Defenders until just now when I was talking about Bifrost. Like, Defenders have been able to do this forever. How come nobody's done this? Did this not work?
So I've done it with Defenders. I definitely included Infinity in my old Defenders roster before the November changes, and then after the November changes, when I was kind of flirting with them, back when I was, I think, pretty busy at work and didn't have a whole lot of actual play time. Like, it was, maybe just 1 or 2 games a week. But I had so many ideas. But I didn't actually ever wind up getting the right combination for it to actually put on the table. But I definitely ran pentagrams. I definitely wanted... That was the strategy. It was like Terrigen. I was running Terrigen and I was running Infinity Formula. And both of those, the idea was basically just dominate one flank completely, and then port over and start doing the same thing with token, with somebody left behind to try and score those, 1 or 2 points.
I just think the crazy thing about Malekith doing that is he's gonna kill somebody, and it's too easy. Like, if you're looking at like 17th threat, it's probably gonna be a 5-wide game, and you're probably gonna have a side that has 2 on it and a side that has 3 on it. Well, I'm just gonna go the side that has 2 on it and just dominate it, and probably have both those characters dead by round 3. Like, I think that's completely plausible. I don't think it's guaranteed. I'm not going to say guaranteed with that one at all. But I don't think it's out of this world for Malekith to take out 2 models on one flank if your whole entire team is swarming that side.
So the points that I can look at when it comes to deploying like that are, it's easy to talk about, but when you actually put it on the board, I'm sure you know this, but the idea is, like, you're running like a 3 or 4 wide at 17, more likely.
3 or 4.
And they're running... somewhere between 4 and 6, most likely, right? So probably 5. We'll settle on 5. So now we're talking 3 or 4 versus 5. If you probably didn't win priority, right? If they're playing on their secures, unless you brought Infinity, right? And so that means that they're going to put a model out. You're going to put a model out. You're going to run out of models before they do. Yeah. So you might not actually have a deployment point where you're going to be like, okay, this is clearly the weak side. I'm going to put Malekith on the weak side or on the strong side.
That's
And
why
I think that
you just deploy everybody middle because you have that reach.
fair enough. Fair enough. So the reach is good, and Infinity's a really interesting one. So when I was playing Black Order on Infinity, I never ran Infinity in my Crisis selection, but I played a fair amount of games on it, and it was definitely just dogpile all on one side. You just get 17 points of nasty, and you just line it up, and you're like, okay. And if they don't come and face you down, then you basically have points parity. I agree with you there. And the idea was, you just use the control that you've got, similar to how Scoundrels is really good for a Thanos squad. I think that so is Infinity Formula. I'm just not sure that it's everything they want it to be.
Yeah.
But
I think it's definitely interesting. I'd say people try it out. We'll see what happens. But yeah, typically with Infinity, you're going to have your columns. You're going to have, like we broke it down, it's 17, anywhere from 4 to 6 characters. So you're going to have anywhere from 2 to 3 on a side. Sometimes you'll have 3 on both sides. And you're just really vying for your home point, and then whoever pushes first. It's like a Mexican standoff almost when you really think about it, is who's going to make the first move. Like, who's going to make that push first. It's definitely interesting.
Those games are crazy.
About it. Like,
if you can chase somebody off of one of the columns, right? So if you can basically, just get just enough of a dog pile on the right side, let's say, your right side column, and you push up, and if they just had token resistance or something up there and they dip out of there, then you basically own that side now. And now we've got a completely different ball game, because if you can win your side on Infinity, then we're playing an extract game, down a character or two, right? And so now you've got people standing on those home points on your side, and it's such a far divide between those two columns, right? Like, there are situations where a double long move doesn't land on the point between the two, unless you've got some other way to additionally position yourself. And that means that if you're holding, the advantage in extracts, and you're holding your side of an Infinity Formula, they've got an uphill battle, because they've got to come to you. They got to spend basically a whole turn moving at you and getting shot down or getting engaged with your people who aren't holding your extracts. And that is like, I mean, to reference a different game, that's like a time walk in a lot of cases, where you just feel like I just got a whole turn on my opponent, because all I had to do was stand here and like dirtle, and they literally had to walk across the board. And then once somebody got close enough, I had things to do with my actions again. So I think that if you can dominate your side, that's a really strong position on Infinity. If you wind up kind of like skirmishing over your home points on both sides, that's a much harder fight in general.
So we have it labeled as a standing secure. So again, what we mean by that is you're just standing there. You don't have to flip it. You don't have to do anything. You just stand there. And the biggest thing to take into consideration with your squad is, what type of control are you bringing? Are you able to like wait till somebody activates and then push them off the point? Do you have somebody like Strange who's just like, I'm going to make sure nobody's on this point after they've activated? So that's kind of the consideration you want to be at when we're looking at Infinity, and what we mean by stand. If it's a stand, like, what type of control are you bringing with your game plan? Is it a hard control where you're literally pushing and throwing people off, or is it a soft control where you're doing it by attrition? Or is it both? I think it's a viable strategy as well, but I think it definitely needs to be in your strategy for Infinity, is how are you going to affect the standing?
And these are also like single point objectives. So this Infinity can often be a death of 1,000 cuts. Like, there's so many ways that Infinity plays out. It's a really interesting crisis. Like, outside of like maybe criminal syndicate, kingpin criminal syndicate, like especially, you're going to wind up having to, there's a lot of one-on-ones, there's a fair amount of two-on-ones. Like, I've had games of this where, one of the lowest scoring games I've had recently was 6-4 at the end of round 6. It was a Kree Core and Infinity Formula. And we just had to abandon points because of the game that we were playing. Nobody found the core, so we wound up just fighting constantly. And so like the scoring on this game was like 2-1 round 1, and then like 1-0 round 2, and then like 0-0 round 3. Like, it just, we had to pull off the points to engage. Like, I guess we could have just stood there and let parity take its course, but that's not fun. Come on.
Who wants to do that? It's definitely like the
Right,
biggest
like-
thing to consider is like the extract really shapes the secure in a way sometimes. Whereas like if it's something like
Yeah.
Recore where it's like that 2 points, it's like, well, now I'm gonna have that 4-point swing because I'm getting 2 points and you're not. So it really is huge. So something like
And to be in the C shape, you've got to come off your point to,
Yeah.
to do a check or to grab something from the C line.
Yeah. Or you just go aggressive and push all in and take their infinities.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean that's what we did.
Fair. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Shares the shape of the mutant madman, just for referencing. Again, we're hitting real basics here, so don't want to insult anybody's intelligence with the game, but we're just talking about real basics with stuff.
These are both bees.
Yeah, it's the bees.
They're really
knees.
different. They're really different crises, but I mean,
all right. Shares type with all stand secures is just meaning like it's like a standing.
it's a standing secure, right? So anything that you're going to stand on, some similar strategies are going to apply to any sort of a stand around situation, right? So when we say standing, like Dizzard mentioned, soft control, hard control, any sort of standing on secure control is very powerful on it, especially if you've got something like last activation control, where you can move somebody in and attack a weak point. Actually, that's something that I think Malakath is actually really good at.
Yeah.
Is if you're in a situation where you can hold him till the end and he can just charge in and knock a single body off a point. Even if he doesn't take him out, he's just going to roll in, knock a single body off the point, and now it's his.
Or he rolls in and knocks everybody off the point with Midnight
Also
Dance
happens.
Party.
Also happens.
I love that card so much. All right. You wrote down Panic Nostalgia. You want to hit on that?
Well, Panic's a B.
Yeah, okay.
Panic's a B shape, so it's another shape. That should probably be up with the share shape with. So going back to sharing a shape with Mutant Madmen, right? So both of these are B shapes. They're very different secures, right? Because one of them, Mutant Madman, is a quote unquote pay to flip, right? So you pay a power to gain possession of this point. Roll dice and pray a little bit. So the column strategy still pretty much holds true, right? For Mutant Madman, like you're still basically going to have two different fights across the board. So like part of this series is to kind of help you understand how the crisis in the core, getting reps on core crises can build your skill set across all the rest of the secures in the game, or all the crises in the game. So with Mutant Madman, you've got the similar strategy so far as the columns are concerned. It's a lot more fluid and flexible as to who's going to control the points and where the fight is going to happen. But at the same time, you still have that massive divide in between these two columns on the table. And so if you're at a point in the game where it's time to abandon one of these flanks, whether because you've won it or because you're losing it and you want to shore up your other side to make sure that you can maintain parity or win the fight on the other side, now we've got this situation where it's going to take you a whole turn to move across. So like one of the things that I see on games of Mutant Madman is people will abandon their flanks a little bit too early. I think that you want to make sure that you've got control of that side. Own the points before you move away from it. You don't have that same option on Infinity unless you're actually going to walk away from those points, which is definitely a decision point. Because even though you win the game on points, right? More often than not. Sometimes you got to just nut up and get across the way and make something happen on the other side of the board. So some of the strategies that apply to Infinity Formula also apply to Mutant Madman. And the general idea is that they're not the same, but they share some similar qualities.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and roll into your big points of discussion here. So we've pretty much hit stand around strat pretty good. I don't think we need to go into that too much harder. I guess
I think we call strat pretty good.
Yeah, I think the only other thing to talk about with like stand around strat is things to consider would be like if you're bringing Infinity Formula or other stand around, like let's say you bring all three stand arounds for your secures. Can you do that still? Riots, Infinity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah. Like something like Indom might be something that you like. Indomitable, the tactics card, might be something you're like looking at for your card choice because you're doing nothing but stand arounds. Doing something that like limits your moves, doing stuff that you're Oh, I am brain farting right now. What is it called
Oh.
when you block a lane for somebody to push your model off of a point? What's the shorthand term?
It's not blocking.
Yeah, I
Oh
guess
man! Oh, you shared your brain fart with me. Oh golly! Come on, chat, help us out.
body
This is so
blocking.
obvious.
Why? I know, like it's like right there. Backstopping. There it is.
Backstopping,
Oh
yes.
my god. That was bad. All right. So
Yeah.
backstopping. Something that you want to do is just
Top
backstop
tier.
your models because you're standing around, and it's something you definitely want to consider with your plans and your roster creation. It's a column strat
Yeah.
we hit pretty hard. Interplay. You want to hit that one?
So I mean, interplay is in my opinion the point of discussion is how does your squad and your opponent's squad interact, and how does your squad actually like interact with the crisis itself. So like I mentioned, Kingpin Criminal Syndicate really strong on Infinity, right? Because they run a couple of long movers, they run some. Usually you're going to see a lizard somewhere in that roster, even if it doesn't hit the table. So anybody that's like medium base, medium move, short base, long move, they can get all the way across the board to your home points. So, like interplay would be Kingpin leadership on Infinity Formula that you run one model over to the other side of the board and just stand there. And unless they've got two models there, you're going to take that point. Or if they can get yours off, or et cetera. So if you've got like a last move and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flank or abandon? I think we hit that already as well with the whole. Are you going to run both flanks? Are you going to abandon the side just to try and hit that hard? Again, I think flank or abandon. I will say the abandon one side strat. I will say be careful with it because it can easily catch up to you. It's not super easy to pull off. I think that's why Mal might actually be able to, is because he has a card that enables him to get over to the other side immediately.
So abandoning a side is something that I definitely agree you want to be very careful about. I think you want to have a good mix of control and attrition in your roster to take that kind of a strategy in general.
Yeah.
So like Malekith does it fine, Thanos does it fine. You want to have, and you want, in those cases, I think you want to save those activations for later in the round, not just your usual like, I'm Malekith, I'm going to smash three, two and a half things and move on. Like first activation, like you want to. Like Thanos is better suited to that role because you usually want to activate a Thanos later in the round. So abandoning a whole side from the start of the game is also different than abandoning a side, halfway through the game. So like sometimes what I've done is I've just put like a single model on the one side, especially if I've got an early deployment, and then I'll just kind of sit them on that point, and I have no intention of doing anything with that model on round two except for running to the other side of the board. Like I just want to get like that one cheeky point on them when the game is still basically just defending your home secures. Nobody wants to actually like move all the way in and engage. But if you are going to start the game with nothing on one side because you're running a low model count roster, you definitely have the we need a cool name for it, but the bounty hunter adage that we mentioned in like episode 1, where it's like you gotta get your money's worth out of it every single time. You need good rolls, you need good strategy.
I think another thing to consider too is if you are planning on doing like an abandoned strat, is practice it, practice it, as well as like practice it in a way that's almost ensuring that you're getting your opponent's home infinity. Because if you don't get that, then you're going to be falling behind points super fast, and it's going to hurt a lot. I really wouldn't recommend it too much unless you like have a plan built out to do it. Like if you have somebody like Lizard or even Mr. Sinister could actually double move too. And I mean, if you force extraction, it's not a bad idea because you're damage reduction 3. It's kind of interesting. I'm in love with Sinister again. He's super fun.
Or an advanced R&D. Advanced R&D can turn him on, so then he's got his bow online too. Or anybody with a bow. I mean, he's the only 4-threat model with a medium base, medium move, and a bow.
Yeah.
Like that means he can hit an opposing B and get somebody off of it. So that's pretty big.
Yeah. And then economy shift. This is probably the biggest thing about Infinity. And this is like always comes down to, I really like Infinity. I want to play Infinity, but I shouldn't. And that's like
it's fun.
It's so much
like
fun
Hammers
because,
and Infinity are fun
yeah.
ones.
Yeah, like there's so much fun. You have so much agency going on, but then you look at it and be like, what does this do for my opponent? Oh, they get an extra power
Yeah.
too. Like the economy shift is real and it sneaks up so much. It's like, well, normally you can't do this, and you're so used to like, oh, if I go in there with Malekith and you do this, and then you're not gonna be able to do this round one. Well, now you can, or round two rather. But now they can, and it's just like oof. So understanding that economy shift and not forgetting about it. Also, the certain affiliations that can like not really abuse it, but take advantage of it.
X-Force.
I love Infinity on X-Force just because of the fact that you can cat and mouse and get the power round one. And it's good on all their people. You cat and mouse Colossus and get on that Infinity formula, so he's able to bodyguard round one. Do it on a Wolverine, so he can. Actually, he doesn't benefit from it that much, but 23 does. Badger does. Badger can't because he can't contest. Who else? Cable definitely does because he loves power, and his output is always measured by how much power he can gain. If you gain more power with Cable, then his games feel so much better. But yeah, like Infinity's great for X-Force just because like they're one of those factions that can just actually. I hate saying abuse. They're not really abusing it. They're just playing to their strengths, and that's one of their strengths. But again, then you're also thinking about, well, now my opponent round 2 is going to have more for bodyguard. Loki could do all sorts of crazy things. Infinity offsets the power economy so much, and like you don't even notice it until you start thinking about it sometimes. Like right now, I'm like, wow, like it messes up a lot.
There's a lot of power mitigation. Like there's a lot of power mitigation strats that like anybody who's playing this game at a high level thinks about or talks about, where you're like, oh, I don't want to attack this model because if I attack him, he hasn't activated yet. I'm gonna power him up. I'm not gonna kill him. Like it would take a miracle to kill him, which means it's not going to happen for you. Miracles only happen when you have priority on the line. You're like, oh, if I take this model out, I would lose priority.
Or
I
it's
really
a
want to
game.
Take this model out.
Or it's
oh God, yeah.
I don't know if anybody who doesn't know, if you ever take Hood and you like, I need to get 2 wilds off of an empowered Dark Lightning into a Groot and not kill him. You whiff your first shot completely. No dice, no damage, nothing. Your second shot, I have enough power for 2 empowered Dark Lightnings. To win the game, needing to pull off 2 wilds and not kill Groot. Rolls like 4 wilds and like 9 successes or something like that. One shot's Groot and not able to get the wilds to arc over to who I needed to arc over. And it was just like, are you kidding me? Like,
it was so brutal. The stream of that game is even more brutal because the person who was streaming it was so sure that you'd won.
He's like, oh, congrats, Dizzard. You did such a good job. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's just like, oh, that was a good time. Dice don't trust Dice. Don't believe in Dice.
Just don't trust them. Don't trust them. It's not happening. But I mean, speaking of X-Force and even Hood to a certain extent, gun lines are really good on Infinity and Mutant Amendment to the same degree. Gun lines are really good at that kind of a fight because you've got so much range.
I think because whenever I post an X-Force list, I usually take Madmen, and people are like, why are you paying pay to flip with X-Force? They don't like to spend their power on things. Like, you've even said this. And I'm like, well, yeah, like, but X-Force likes the shape. The shape is more important than like the pay to flip in that point, in my opinion, because what else are they going to take? Are they going to go and take Gamma? No, not so much. Are they going to take Demons? They don't want to be standing on points on that. No. So it's like, it kind of comes down to like, what is the benefit worth the risk? What do you need to do? But we'll get into that more. We could talk about Mutant Madmen eventually. But as far as Infinity goes, realize the economy shift is there. Realize how it's going to impact your game for your benefit and also for your opponent's benefit. And I would highly recommend that a lot of times when you think that you're good at Infinity, you're probably looking at a different Secure more. Like, I don't really know how else to say that, but it's like, I look at Infinity all the time, and I'm like, man, I would love Infinity with this list. And I'm like, I probably should not be taking Infinity. It just comes down to like, there's so many people that are like better at it and actually like abuse Infinity. Like Avengers straight up abuse Infinity. Not only are they getting like a power discount from Steve, they're getting plus a power now. So it's really like it's insane. I think A Force is pretty good with Infinity too, just because like their power generation and being able to gain some. And Inhumans is great with Infinity because they can gain that power and it passes to where it needs to be. Like there's
Yep.
other people out there that typically can abuse the power that you gain off of Infinity more than you are. So this comes to that consideration of, do you really like Infinity, or is there something else out there that you should be considering?
I had a conversation with Leaf after one of the games that we played, and the conversation was specifically about Infinity Formula, which we played on, and because we played on his secures in that game, and I was running Terrigen, so the conversation was like just about like Infinity versus Terrigen,
Yeah.
and he had gone with Infinity because he was comfortable on it, he liked it, and at one point in that conversation, I said like coming from Magic, I've always tended towards like more like control oriented Magic rosters. And if there's ever a situation where I can benefit both of us or hurt both of us, I'm more comfortable hurting both of us
Yeah.
because I want to trust in my own ability to recover more than I want to trust that you don't know what to do with a glut of power. So I think that once you're thinking about the economy shift of something like Infinity Formula, that's another one that's like, shares a type with, right? So like what else shares a type with power economy? And I think that the Fisk Witnesses and Terrigen Mists are another one where you kind of have to think about the power economy when you play those games. Because with Terrigen, you're getting poisoned, right? Poison's not a big deal so long as you're fighting. And with Fisk, you're getting stunned, which is like
A
an
huge
even
deal.
bigger deal when you're fighting.
Yeah.
So those kinds of thinking about the power economy of the game, right? So like you think about it one way on Infinity, you think about it differently on some other ones, but just including that, aspect of the game in your thought process, I think is important.
Absolutely. Then our last point we have here is medium base, medium moves. You kind of hit on already, but just biggest thing, don't forget is what? Oh,
Rotations.
rotations. I missed
Rotations
rotations.
and
Okay, I'll finish. I'll
that's
finish
right.
medium base, medium move.
Yeah.
Don't forget Lizard, Mr. He wants to say Mysterio because I say Mister. Mr. Sinister. The medium base, medium move is huge on Infinity, especially if you stick them in something like Criminal Syndicate Kingpin, because then they're just going to double move and they're going to be on your point, and they aren't moving and they are not dying, not easily, anyways.
Right.
So something to consider is if you're bringing that B shape, medium base, medium move can double move and get on that point and contest, and either rob a point from you or make it so nobody's scoring. So something to consider. Rotations.
Watch out. So rotations is something that I think so nobody does rotation better than Kingpin Criminal Syndicate, where you like take this injured model that was healthy last turn and then you move them back to somewhere else, and then you've got you move another healthy body onto that point, right? So you basically took a model that went from counting for 2, then counting for effectively like 0.5, right? And you rotate them out, and then you bring in a new healthy body to handle it. So the rotation on Infinity is usually between their home points and your home points on the same column of the map, right? So you're like here on their side, and then you're moving back to your own where you're more protected and safe. The big rotations happen on Infinity when you've got to cross that giant divide, right? So depending on what the extract is, this could just be a no-go zone. It could be like just a dead zone of play, and that's when right that flank or abandon kind of strategy comes back into play with rotation, right? Because now it's like, okay, I need to move this model to the other side of the board. He's not going to be there until next turn, right? I'm going to get nothing out of this model this turn. Do I have enough resources on this side of the board to accomplish that? Do I have enough resources on the other side of the board where he's headed to so that when he shows up next turn, he's actually got a team to fight with? Or am I trying to send somebody over to the other side? So like they're now my token resistance on that side to just kind of herald the appointment. So, thinking about the game at that kind of tactical level where it's like, where am I now? Where do I want to be next turn? Where was I last turn? Where do I want to be this turn? Having those kind of ideas going through your head on a map like Infinity, just remember that it's real easy to move between the home points on one of the columns, on one of the sides of the map, and it's really hard to move across the table. So I would suggest the next time you're considering one of those moves across the table, it's really easy to get, at least it is for me, really easy to get laser focused on my home point to my home point or their home point to their home point. But look at the diagonal, because once you're committing a whole turn to moving across, right? It's going to take you another move action to get where you want to go anyway. Consider moving diagonally across those if you have, the body to spare.
Yeah, like somebody like Panther, I'm pretty sure long move
Mm-hmm.
pounce, he can still attack. Is it double long move pounce or is it one long move pounce to get to it? I can't
It's double
remember.
long move pounce.
Okay, yeah.
It's a double long move. Like the double long move does not get you across the B.
Yeah.
It's a wide gap.
But it's still the fact that Panther could actually get there if you needed him to. One thing that I think is super interesting too with rotations is if you're looking at Web Warriors, because Web Warriors have massive rotation skill. They're able to get from point to point whenever they want. So if you're going into a Web Warriors team, it's something to consider is what is the rotation path that the Web Warriors have available to them. And I think that's pretty much all I would like to hit on that. Oh, I guess Bifrost is now a consideration too. Man, secrets. Yeah, Bifrost is another big consideration, and maybe we'll get more people trying to play defenders in the same attitude on the bees. Like being able to
I'm equally afraid of a Hulk jumping through a defender
Yeah.
portal. Like the only difference between those two things right now, in my mind, is the model that's jumping through it. Right?
Yeah.
Malekith's like, I'm going to drop this, and then I'm going to jump right through it. It's going to be miserable for you. You have to do a little bit more setup with that on the defender side, and the cost of the effect is also a consideration. Right?
Well,
you got to have enough power to jump through and make something happen versus just needing enough health to jump through and make something happen.
Well, then it's also like the best part about it is like Malekith could set it up to where he's putting the Bifrost in a spot that he's going to get across and more than likely hurt somebody and end up contesting that point. So it's pretty gnarly.
Have you done any Malekith Hulk yet to completely like rogue agents this?
I mean, we haven't had a tangent yet, so we can entertain it. We've done very good today, and I feel like it's made the episode not a real episode. So,
all right, let's fix that.
All right. So people come here for the tangents. What are you talking about? I have not, but I've talked to a couple other people that have, and like Hulk's been super interesting to me. When I was looking at like the Strange add-in, I was like actually thinking about like maybe I should put Hulk in here instead of Strange. And then like run Mal Hulk, because you can do Mal Hulk and like Mystique or Hood or whoever. One 3-point of choice. Come for Sam's laughed.
Stay for the tangents.
Man, I can't math. 13 is 16. 16 researcher. You can run Mystique, who's got Deception, Malekith, and then Hulk. That sounds like a pretty mean researcher team for 3 wide.
Heck yeah, it does.
Like I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe I just throw Strange in here, and I just run Hulk, or I don't do Strange, I do Hulk instead. But I just think Strange brings a bigger overall game appeal, and not like just like certain. Just because like he brings the heal, he brings an added defense boost, he brings in like the control, but Hulk brings in control. He brings in another big base. But then I'm like, I don't have brace still, and then I'm like, I'm kind of scared if I have a Hulk and a Malekith.
Whatever. Just don't run them very close to each other.
Just don't put a red skull right next. Don't put a skull next to
your mouth. Shut your mouth. I thought he was going to be safe there. It was the wingspan. The
wing threw me off.
All right. So to kind of like continue this tangent, but like tie it back in to the larger picture, right? So if we're talking stand around strat, right? Researcher is a prime example of something that you have to stand on. Researcher and Gamma, both of them. Yeah. You got to go stand on that thing. So thinking about activation order, right? That means that if you're 3 wide, which you probably are at 16, and they are 5 wide, they've got priority, whether or not they have priority, right? They're going to get 2 activations before you get 1, which means they basically either have to commit a model to going and standing on the researcher, or they've got to do something else with 2 models before you go with any of yours.
Yep. And then you have a stall activation with your 3-point.
Right.
Which means like if it's like Mystique, you could easily just move Deception, the person who moved up that you think is an easier target for Malekith to kill. and then you're getting your kill off that lets Hulk move forward. Like, yeah, I have thought about it. Like, believe me, I have thought about it, and I'm like, man, I could do this. But I think Strange is just more overall appealing, in my opinion.
So I like sure things, and I also like sure thing for what that's worth. But I like sure things, and with sure things, Hulk is a sure thing. Deception is a sure thing.
Malekith killing.
Malekith killing is not a sure thing, but that's not
It's
the point I was
close.
trying to get
It's
to.
close.
Strange is not a sure thing.
Yeah.
So you got to walk up, and now you've got 5 energy dice for your attack. That's solid. Tack on, you've got reroll all. Solid. Perfect knowledge, reroll all. I love Strange. Like, don't get me wrong when I say this. I just know that that is not a sure thing. It's
Absolutely.
a more often than not kind of thing, but it's not a sure thing. Hulk, right? Like, you move Mystique up and you deception that medium moving model. You double move your Hulk and you throw that back into Malekith range.
Yeah.
Like, that's as sure a thing as you're gonna do.
That's as sure of a thing as sure thing is sure thing.
That's a lot of big boys on the table too. He'd probably improve.
But so then, like, the question that comes up though is, like, when you're looking at your roster and you're looking at, do I take Hulk or Strange in my roster? What is better, the 16 that is Mind Loki, Malekith, Skull? Is it those 3? 5, 9.
That's 16.
16. Yeah. That or Hulk, Mal, Mystique. I actually think Hulk, Mal, Mystique. Maybe I'm dropping.
We're watching
Loki.
Your mind change live.
maybe I'm dropping Loki for Hulk. Man, I'm gonna have to revisit this. I'll come back to me next week. I'll let you know if I put Hulk in my roster. I'll just drop Bullseye for Hulk. I don't play Bullseye enough.
I think that Malekith can get away without a 2. I think he's in that same category as Storm, where you're like, you know what? What if I just don't run a 2?
Well, it's like out of all my games, I think I've ran Bullseye like once or twice, and I'm pretty sure both those games I lost. Like, the games that I ran wider were the games that I lost.
Yeah,
so
I
like,
feel you there.
I might be able to get away, especially if I'm taking a 6. I might be able to get away with not taking Bullseye because I fixed his 19 too, and I don't need to throw another 3, and I can keep Ultron because then I can go 19, Mal, Hulk, and 2 3s.
I mean, 19. So, like, if you think about what 19 means, right? So that means demons, intrusions, and virus, right? So that's another thing. Which
is great for Mal, Hulk, Mystique, Zemo. Like, you can't tell me that's not bad for that group. All right, screw it. We're gonna be dropping Bullseye for Hulk. I'll go 4 wide into your 7 wide at 17. Let's go.
There we go. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with gas.
What were you gonna say though? You're talking about 19 and comparing crises.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that's, you know, like those. So one of the other considerations, right? So all the core crises are 17. Yeah. So one of the things that you can think about when you're putting a roster together, if you want to, like, lean into, so first of all, I highly encourage you to lean into these core crises for a little while, right? Like, maybe don't go to your next, like, big, like, tournament and be like, all right, I'm trying core crises because Finger Guns said so. What I mean is, like, you're playing with your friends. You're like, I'm bored of crises.
What you need to do is go and say, I'm playing the core crisis because Hyper Viper said so, and he's not here to defend himself.
There we go. Perfect. It's his fault.
There you go.
Play some core crises, like, get back to the basics, and basically, like, one of the things I think you can do with the core crises is you can figure out what you're good at. Yeah. So if you've got a roster that you want to play, but you're not sure what you're good at, just bring all the core crises. Like, you'll find out soon enough. You're like, oh, turns out I'm terrible at pay to flips. Why the heck am I running Deadly Meteors? Or like, turns out, like, I really don't like these, like, split or spread shapes, like with Extremis and Infinity. So, like, maybe I need to find something a little more narrow. The point of all of this is, like, bring some core crises and slam some games out and see what happens, right? So, like, you've got a C, you've got the Diamond D, and you've got your B-shaped columns, right? So, like, that's what you're going to get out of your core secures. And then the core extracts get a little more, we'll call it interesting, with 2 Fs, right? And 1 RNG, right? So, like, those have very little cohesion. But regardless, the point that I'm trying to make here is, if you play the core crises, you're going to figure out what your team is good at, because there's a wide enough spread in the core crises for you to understand that. And if none of them work for you, swap them all out for as many E's as you can handle and move on. Like,
fair enough. All right. Well, I guess that's gonna wrap up Infinity. Is there anything else you want to say on Infinity, or before we?
I think Infinity is one of those crises that no one will ever complain about being in your roster.
Yeah.
So if you're playing to have fun and you're not trying to be competitive, or like you're just playing a game night roster and you're not worried about trying to, go undefeated on the night like a boss, bring some Infinity Formula in your roster and give it a rip because it's a fun crisis that
Yeah.
everybody loves playing on to a certain extent. It makes you think about the game differently than I think a lot of competitively focused players and rosters want to think about the game, which is like right now, like there's a lot of gutter fighting going on. I call it gutter fighting, right? It's either like it's a C and it's an E, and like what are we doing? I don't know. We're gonna fight over these points. It's what Hyper Viper and I did last week, and I think it's a really fun way to play the game, but it's also like maybe not the most mindful or tactical way to play the game. Activation order matters a whole lot, but so do dice, and so do a lot of other like really minor factors in the game that you don't necessarily want to think about constantly, because there's more, other ways to play this game that involve more tactics and strategy and less just like punching each other in the face. So your mileage may vary, but I think that spreading things out, giving people extra power, lets different models shine, and it lets different tactics cards shine. So I mean, Dizzard mentioned Indomitable earlier. I think that Advanced R&D is also really fun to play on Infinity, and on top of that, oh, I had another better idea than Advanced R&D, but Advanced R&D slipped out. So that's what you get for now. I might remember it later. That's all I got for now. Play some Infinity Formula. It's fun. Everybody likes to play on it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing. Is like you get more power. It's just a blast to play. I haven't played Infinity in a
Yeah.
while actually. Like looking at it, like it's been a while since it came up.
And when you like set that up against the guy playing Kingpin Syndicate, just be like, oh, okay, cool, that was fun.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of like
Protect your home
why
points.
people got burned out by Kingpin just being annoying, and they're like, I'm not gonna stop. I'm not. It's Omnis. Blame Omnis. Omnis is all about let's get
his
rid of
fault.
the pay to flips.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about not Omnis. I mean,
We love you.
flips are great. No problem with Omnis. That's not what I mean. But if we talk about like counterplay on Infinity, right? Let's try to like kind of round this out with that, right? So one of the things I didn't say earlier that I wanted to is like if you're going to play Infinity in your actual like real roster, you want to make sure that you've got a plan for the affiliations that excel at it, right?
Yeah.
So I've mentioned it like 3 times. Kingpin Syndicate is amazing on Infinity Formula. X-Men and X-Force are good on Infinity Formula. Anybody who is comfortable owning a single column of Infinity and then pushing over is surprisingly good at Infinity Formula. So like you want to make sure that when you line up against somebody with that you don't overextend, right? So like against Kingpin Syndicate, like you got to keep like 3 models on your back point.
Yeah.
Just accept it. You want to keep that point, that's what it's going to take. And always remember that 0 models on a point counts for 0 no matter who the leadership is, right? So like Kingpin his models might count for 2 when they're healthy, but if they're not on the point, they don't count for anything.
Yeah.
So
I have a plan.
I don't know about the other ones.
From Terra saying have a plan for Kingpin Syndicate 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it like going against Kingpin on Infinity Formula is just it's if you've never done it before, absolutely run that matchup because it's rough. Because he's just gonna round 1 probably get 4 Infinity Formulas because there's nothing you can do about it because you didn't have the proper plan for it. So definitely run into it because he's gonna be taking multiple characters that can get to your home points, and then you're gonna be only having 1 character, so they're gonna be stealing the point from you because they have 2 to your 1 that's on the point.
Yeah.
Or if you have 2 characters on the
good
point.
blocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So block off your home points, leave multiple bodies on it. If you can throw 2 bodies kind of up front, towards the front of it, so that you're within 1, but if they try to bring somebody in, they're not going to be within 1, right? Because almost all of the medium move, long move, like double move stuff, like they're really close to it. They don't have a whole lot of overshot. So if you can stack models on and around that point, you can usually block them out from it.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and move into sales pitch of the week. We'll finish up. We're gonna. This week was Infinity. The next episode probably be Meteors. We don't know yet. We'll figure it out.
Different.
But we'll do the secures, and then we'll move into the extracts. I think next week we're gonna try and hit 2 secures. We'll see how it time works out. We'll see. Anyways, sales pitch.
I want us to spend a week an episode on this. I want each one to get their own. I think there's plenty to talk about on these.
That's
and I
fair.
mean, we went from like being like 40 minutes in to being an hour in to the cast.
True.
And,
I was sitting there thinking that we
so.
were gonna be like, I guess we're gonna hit Meteors tonight as well. And then it was like,
Heck
nope. Tangents galore.
We're gonna talk about it.
All right.
We're going to talk about it.
So sales pitch of the week. I'm gonna talk about Red Skull because I've been bouncing in and out of, like the Mal conversations. A lot of people are like, "Why are you taking Red Skull? Red Skull is underperforming. Red Skull doesn't do this. Red Skull. Number one, I think Red Skull's fine. He's a 4-3-3 defenses. He's got what 6-6 health, maybe 6-5. I can't remember what his backside is.
No, it's 6-6. Everybody forgets he's 6 on his injured side.
But the biggest thing is like for Cabal specifically, especially under Mal, even as a leader himself, like he's just a battery for your team. Like you can stare into the cube and gain power if you need it. Sure, you're taking damage and you're probably rolling at least 1 skull. I think I have not had a power up where I've not rolled at least 1. Like I don't know what it is. I can roll 5 dice a million times and not roll a skull. But then as soon as I roll a skull, Red Skull, to try and like do cosmic cube, it's always at least 1. There's always 1 there. And then one day you'll just get bit and roll 5 skulls and just take 5 damage. It hurts. But Skull's a battery. He really is.
This is a sales pitch, though, right?
Yeah. Even if like you only do stare into the cube round 1, just to like port up somebody who's super important, whether it be MODOK or Malekith or a Hulk or just somebody who you need to get that extra little movement out of, that's huge. Like that sets the stage of the game, and that's good enough for me to bring Red Skull in your game. Like honestly, like I will bring him as a 4 threat just for that, and then go stand on the point the rest of the game. I've had games where that's all he's done. He teleported Malekith up, and then he's over the course of the game, he scores me 6 to 8 VPs. Like so he sets the stage of the game, and then at the end of the game, he's the only one healthy because nobody cares to go after Red Skull, and he's just there. Like my last game I played, he scored me like 8 VPs over 6 rounds, and like how can you complain about that? And he was the only one on the board who was healthy. And the only reason why I was able to close out that game when I did is because he was at my back point. He double moved to pick up the Kree-Core, and then teleported himself back to the point to contest it to score me 3 points to close out the round. I was just like, there we go. That's it. Yeah. This is solidifying Skull on my list because he has mobility because he can teleport himself. He can teleport other people. His attacks aren't no joke either. Like his builder's okay. His Cosmic Blast is kind of sad, I will admit, because you're paying a power to do something that everybody else has as a builder, and they gain a power as well as tap a power. But it's still fine. Like it's still a fine attack because like I've actually used that attack. Like I need to sap a power off of this person. I will pay a power and hope for that sap. And it always works out. Always does. I don't know what it is. I'm just like, man, whenever Red Skull rolls this, like, why can't I have this dice with Cable where I need to get that wild to get the Incinerate, and then I don't get it. But with Skull, every single time I get the sap, and I'm like, perfect. And I get no damage. It's like, no damage, but I got the sap. I don't care. Like,
it's the dream. That's the dream right there.
But on his builder, though, you have Wild Push. And I'm pretty sure it's any size push, isn't it? For his builder? Or is it size 3? I can't remember. It's something stupid. His Spender though is any size throw, which is huge. Like that thing is massive. That's huge. I love his Spender.
Spender's so good. Real Spender's so good.
Yeah.
Unlimited size push.
Unlimited size push
on the strike. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like Red Skull's not bad for a 4 threat, especially in Cabal, just to be there as a battery. Because who are you going to have as your backline person? It's not going to be Mystique. She needs to be up there deceptioning somebody and being annoying, and plus she wants martial artist range. It's not going to be Zemo. It's not going to be like it's not going to be MODOK. It's not going to be Malekith. It's not going to be Sabretooth. It's not going to be Sin. It's not going to be Viper. Like, who is your backliner in Cabal? Well, it's Red Skull. He's your backliner. Like, give me who else is in Cabal? Let's go through it all. I'm trying to think of who's a better backliner in Affiliation other than Skull, and I can't think of one.
Maybe Mystique.
I don't think
she's really good backliner.
I don't like using her backliner though because I like her moving around and being annoying.
Oh man, with Mystique for me, okay, I'll give you that. She's not a pure backliner. My favorite moves with Mystique are basically like come in, deception somebody, and then basically like spend the rest of the game either turreting or double moving. Like she has like no middle ground. Right?
Yeah, but
so like either you're coming into her range, she's like beep, beep,
her
beep.
biggest range is range 3. Red Skull has range 4.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
like it's.
Yep.
I don't know. He's a better backliner.
She's got stealth. She's got stealth though. Stealth makes a pretty solid backliner in my opinion because you gotta kind of like bring it in.
Nobody attacks Skull. Nobody like
the range 4. The range 4 stuff on Skull is huge.
All of my games, like nobody ever attacks Skull unless I put them up for them to have, and then it's just then it's like okay, I'll take Skull now. But nobody ever goes to chase Skull on a back point because it's like they have no need to because they're too worried about Malekith or Zemo or I guess in the future Hulk. I just keep thinking about it. I can't get my head off of it. But that's my sales pitch.
The problem with Hulk is he's not dark rainable. That's the like. Oh,
that's also like
it.
My list is also very very primarily Cabal just to abuse Dark Rain.
Yeah.
It makes it real easy to take out a Hulk.
I don't want to steal your clothes on Red Skull.
I think the best attack on a Hulk I've had was 18 damage over the course of one activation. 18 damage on the Hulk. That's a lot. Stupid. Anyways, Red Skull. Yeah, he's just a good character. I think people need to give him another shot. I think
does he have a tactics card or something? That's like
yeah, he's got it. I forgot about that. Yeah, who plays that tactics card? So Skull also has a tactics card that just lets you reactivate a model for probably no damage, maybe 1, on the person you're doing it on. And you're doing it on somebody like, I don't know, Malekith. It can drastically change the course of a game. I've had to be like, I have things not looking so good for me to be like, there's no way my opponent wins now. Just from Cosmic Invig, like he's got an amazing tactics card that he can very easily do. Even if like it's just so good. He can use the new beam one too. Yeah, so the new card that came out that's coming out with the new Skull. I think that card is great on OG Skull because that thing's sick. Nice. And like he's like, I'm just gonna take 5 damage, so I like hurting myself, and I'm gonna beam you for 11 dice. Like, good luck. Like, yeah. I love that card. I don't care for it on new Skull, but old Skull I think it's great. But yeah, I need to stop myself. But I've gone over way too long.
It's fine. I mean, I ran Skull. Like I said, all right. So you're gonna go talk to the manager about the price that somebody's looking to get this thing discounted by, and I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna tell your customer. I played Red Skull with Thanos and the old rules, and it was really fun because of the cosmic invigoration on a 3-action model. I think that you've got a lot of that with Malekith and what's happening now there. I also think that when I played that roster, far more often than not, Red Skull turned into my objective piece.
Yeah.
And a 4-threat objective piece in a very tall roster is kind of a trip for your opponent. Because usually you got like Toad, who's like, he's hard to pin down, right? But like once you injure him, he's basically dead.
Yeah.
Red Skull is not that. And if you can grab like a single extract and then put him next to an incredibly tanky model, and assuming Red Skull's got anywhere near enough power, right? He usually doesn't.
Hydra. I forgot all about Hydra tactics.
Yeah, you're just like hail Hydra, like over to the next dude, right? You're like, hey, what if, right? It's like here's my Red Skull. He just grabbed this thing, and then he moved up next to my like real piece that like the centerpiece of my roster.
Malekith.
And now you go to attack Red Skull because like he's holding the Kree core, and I was like, what if you powered up my Malekith before he attacks, so that he could just roll 1,000 crits into you?
Hydra Tax is also another good. Like when I put Red Skull on the list, I was like, I need people who are going to be like survivable. Because I was at first trying to run like a wider Mal, and I was just like, it's not working for me. So then I went like tall Mal, and it's been glorious. Like, come at me. If anybody needs malpractice, come at me. No, in all seriousness though, Red Skull is great. Give him a shot. Like, don't think it's like old Red Skull. I think he's got better game now than he used to, even though his card didn't change, just because of what else
Right.
is in the game around him.
The game is different. So I played a lot of Red Skull really early on in my experience with MCP because my wife wanted to play the good guys and like she was like my like main like playing partner. And so like she wanted to be the good guy. So I was like, well, I guess I get to play Red Skull and this hodgepodge of villains. And so I was like, I'll bring out Red Skull. And the games where you're able to like grab an objective and kind of hang back with him, he really excels. And that strike is really more like a weapon of last resort. You're like, hey, you're at range 2 of me.
Get away.
What if I hit you? What if I hit you with this? And we'll see where it goes. But I really think that his real money is in the 2 range 4 energy attacks.
Absolutely.
And way more often than not, you're far better served. Like, I'm going to move away, and then I'm going to use one of these 2 things against you.
Absolutely. Go play Red Skull. All right. Hobby Corner. Accountability Club Shameless time.
My goodness, y'all, this was a terrible month. Myself included. Not going to lie. I said it from like week 1 of July. I was like, Kalia's going to be my downfall, and she was. I just can't find the motivation to paint Kalia beyond her purple cape.
Just paint her all purple, then you're fine. You know, like I like.
That's what I should have done, right? So remember, guys, Accountability Club is it's basically like threefold. Number 1, paint to your own standards, like for the model, like not even for you. Like you don't care about this model, like throw a couple colors of contrast and move on, right? Like F Clea, I'm gonna play her 3 times in the next year. Just paint her all purple. Jeez, man. Like who cares? Like this is on you, right? So like that's the point of submitting the pictures, is that so when you decide to cut a corner on your own talent or your own skill, you're like, hey, this is the corner I decided to cut, right? So everybody can see it. But that's pillar number 1 of Accountability Club is paint to your own standards. Like try to push yourself if you want to, but it's up to you. Pinnacle number 2 is you have to submit a goal every month. If you do not submit a goal, you're gonna get the shame list. And number 3 is if you submit a goal, you have to do it to your own standards. So here is our longer than I would like list.
When are we gonna announce the reward for making it? Has anybody actually consistently made it?
Okay. Yes, we have a few people who have consistently made it, and you guys are awesome. In fact, everyone at this point who I am certain has met their goal for these first 3 months of Accountability Club. Like, I want to put you on a list, and you're going to get the reward, like, regardless of what happens next, because you guys have been rocks. I've never had to say your name, right? Like, good job. I still think we just need to keep it at, like, you're going to want this, and you're going to feel really bad if you don't get it. You are not guaranteed the reward just by being in Accountability Club. You have got to be accountable. You've got to make stuff happen. So first, here's the shame list. Finger Guns, that's me. Hyper Viper, come on. Thoris, I'm uncomfortable saying this name publicly in this kind of a context, but Nagoldar. Barncat, Brad A, Sandbox, Smart, like basically no hero, Big Positive Geek, Boom, TTFN, Cody 1307, Darth Nader. Oh, there are so many names. It's like literally like not letting me see them all at once. Gillis, Grunko, Jonah, Kenny G21. Kenny, you are on blast, brother. Like you are about to get dropped from Accountability Club.
Has he ever done
because you've
one?
never submitted. No. Come on, Ron Mithander, Nate GG, Nick Swan GG, One Absolute Matt, Ronald the Accuser, Samzilla. Shame. Dong, dong, dong,
Matt
dong.
didn't do one? I thought he's always so busy. How does he paints so
He
much?
is. He just so. I'm not gonna. I didn't split out the list this week between like who didn't submit a goal versus who didn't submit a submission. And again, as always, right? So you got tagged in our Discord, and I called you out on air, If I'm wrong, just let me know. It means I didn't see your submission. It wasn't in the forms, right? So just to reiterate everything for everybody, there is a form for August submissions.
You forgot to put a
Put
goal
your
in.
goals in for August submissions.
And then don't forget what
right?
you put in for your goal.
Yeah. And don't forget, right? So it can't hurt to do like, double accounting here and like submit it in the form, submit it in the submissions section of the chat, right? Like get it out there in a place where you can find it again to remember what you said you would do. That wasn't my problem. I'm just lazy.
I had a big July. I put together like 5 boxes of stuff that I haven't done yet. I painted Sinister, Bullseye, Black Cat. I touched up Ultron. I had a big month.
I've been painting rims on my bases like a madman. I just haven't actually painted new models. I got Heimdall done, like to a certain standard, and I got my Scourge done. Besides his eyes, I can't decide what I want to do with his eyes because I want him to have like magic eyes, but I have enough magic eyes characters that I'm like, I can't just do like magic green again. What do I do?
All right. What's your goal for this month? It can't be Clea again.
I think it has to be Clea again, otherwise she's never going to get done. My goal for this month is Malekith.
Yeah.
So I want to get my Mal done before NashCon.
My
That's
goal
going to be basically all my painting time.
My goal is going to be Heimdall, Mal. Oh, I could drop Heimdall from the list, I guess. I don't really play him as much as I used to.
There you go.
Heimdall for Hulk. Go down to two threes. I don't know what's more important, Bullseye or Heimdall. Anyways, I gotta do Heimdall. I gotta do Strange now because I'm putting him in. I started working on his ring. I was trying some interesting things. Oh, I don't even know it's showing up. Oh, I can't see. It's kind of shimmery. But I'm gonna do like an orange.
Hey, that's cool looking. That looks nice.
I don't know if I'm gonna leave it like this or if I'm gonna do something. I might like do a little highlight to like bring out certain things. Maybe like a white on the letters. I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out.
I felt like Bob Ross when I painted my OG Strange. Like I just kept throwing more and more on that model, and like, I was like, I love it. Oh, I don't really like that. Let's add more. Oh, I like it again. It just kept going.
This month I'm gonna have to do Heimdall and Strange, hopefully before Malekith comes out, and then Malekith. So because I'm trying to get as much done before him, which is why I did so much this last month, so that way I have like maximum time to do him. So nice. All right, Hobby Corner complete. Challenge of the week. Again, we're continuing last week's because nobody wanted to play. Except for 2. Gronko,
Seriously.
Who was it? Let's shout him out. Gronko did 1 and...
Gronko did 2.
Gronko did 2. Gronko did 2 and a Goose. A Goose is always good. So
come on, guys.
Good for you guys. But hey,
bleed roster with Blade. Make it happen.
Bleed roster with Blade that Pagani asked for, and nobody wanted to play. All right. Listener question time.
Yes.
Fun stuff. All right. Hebinator? Let's go Hebinator. Who is your one pet character that you always try to squeeze in lists just for your love of them?
You okay? I don't know. I have a lot. I honestly I have like maybe like 5 characters that I'm constantly like, oh, I want to put them in because I think that they don't see enough play. I like them so much.
I think it changes for me.
Narrow that down to one.
Like it depends on like what I'm playing. Like for a while it was Gambit. Right now it's probably Sinister. Like I've been enjoying Sinister a lot, and I keep thinking of like other ways to play him. But I don't know. I think probably my most consistent character is probably Zemo, but I wouldn't call him a pet character. I would say he's one of my favorite models I've painted, but I wouldn't go as far to say he's a pet character for me. But currently, I wouldn't say I have Malekith. Malekith's my pet character. He's going in every single list for like next year for me. But no, like seriously, like Malekith is probably my
it's
pet
Thanos,
character.
right? Like let's be honest, it's Thanos for me. Like I'm just like, what is this? What is this roster? What if I put a Thanos in it? That's a lot harder now that the BNR update happened.
I think for me it's definitely Malekith because I already have plans for pretty much the end of the year for lists that I'm playing, and they all include Malekith. And I will say, it's not because he's a super good character in the game. It's because I actually really like Malekith as a character in the comics, and I have for a long time. And plus, that model is just beautiful.
He's so awesome. He's like this
Yeah.
beautiful blend of glam and metal, like just
Yes,
like rolled
yes.
into one little dark elf riding a bog tiger. Like he's fantastic.
What else do you want? And plus, he's just a super cool character in the comics. Like, if you have not read War of the Realms, go read War of the Realms. Like, it's a long story.
He's got that Joker element to him where he'll just do something. Like I can't count the number of times that I've watched a show or read a comic book where I'm like, just do the thing, right? Like you're like, oh, we can't kill this person. No, just do it.
I was rereading something and I forgot all about. I wasn't rereading. I was watching Comics Explained, the YouTube guy. I sent you the video, I think, for like his six-hour video on like the whole entire Thor story. It was a good. I
haven't gotten to it.
I think that's honestly what pushed me through like most of my painting. Was I had that on in the background while I was painting, and I was just crushing it. And he gets to War of the Realms where he's got like the Midnight Blade, and he actually called it the. I forgot what he called it, but basically, I didn't realize this, and I forgot all about it. But he was saying that the blade that he has in War of the Realms, like the black sword, is actually the Black Knight's sword.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He didn't explain how he got it.
I don't think I put that together.
But he said that it's actually the Black Knight's sword, which I was like, oh. But he didn't say how he got it or anything like that. He just said like, I think he called it like the Ebony Blade, which is the Black Knight's sword.
Nice.
But yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, it's honestly like anybody like looking for like Malekith's background story and all that, go watch that video. It's actually really long, but it's really, really good. And if you want to know more about Thor too, it's actually really good just for like Thor knowledge.
Nice.
If you don't have time to read comics, but you have 6 hours to listen to YouTube while you're painting.
I'm pretty sure you could read most of War of the Realms in 6 hours for what
you probably could, but
you can't paint while you're doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Multi-purpose. All right. Second question. Laugh 1388. How advantaged are veteran MCP players over newer players? Does this barrier for entry become more difficult the later you jump in? Referencing character bloat and how veterans have a greater understanding of every character versus new people. I think there's kind of a double-sided coin. Because people who've been playing the game since the game came out are going to have a greater understanding of these characters. I will 100% agree with that. I will not deny that one bit. And people who are just now coming to the game have like 130 characters to learn and figure out what they do. However, we're also stuck in our ways. We're so like, this is how I play. This is how we do things. Like, I love playing games against my wife because she only plays every so often. She's not like into it as much as I am. And there's times where she'll do something. I'm like, huh, I never considered that.
Didn't see that.
Yeah. Like I think there's some really interesting points that like new players to the game will see angles and see things that we don't see because we're just so like tunnel vision. I don't want to say jaded, but I guess we're kind of jaded when it comes down to it. Like in essence, like we're like, this is the game. This is how it plays. And they're like, well, why don't I just run over here and do this over here? Like, why would you do that? Oh shit, you just won. Like what? Like what happened? So it's an interesting question. I think it comes down to like what advantage you're talking about. So it's interesting. I think new people have an aspect that they are actually advantaged in certain ways. Yeah.
So my points with this would be, number one, if you're new to the game, if you play newer models, you're actually like kind of eliminating some of that gap. And in a lot of cases, it's going to be a newer model that brought you into the game if you're a newer player, right? So like, maybe you just like put off buying into Crisis Protocol because you love Thor so much, but then like, a year and a half later, you're like, let's do this, right? And so you bring out Asgard and try to play some Asgard stuff. Like even then, right? If you're bringing Heimdall and Scourge, like you're going to bring things to the table that maybe the more experienced player across the table from you doesn't understand. The second thing is that gap can collapse very quick.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to play the game, if you want to understand how to play the game, if you want to, basically like elevate your game as quickly as possible, talking with experienced players is going to get you there in a, right quick. Because number one, I have yet to meet an experienced player in this game that doesn't love just talking about it, right? Like this game is so great, right? It's like, it's an IP we love. It's a very clean rule set, and it's got so many options and lines of play that anybody who's played it for a period of time is just like, hey, let's like, yeah. If you're open to getting critiques from your opponent at the end of the day, like you're going to get a ton of knowledge very quickly from anybody who's played this game for any length of time. And other than that, like the I don't think that model bloat is a problem. I feel like we got a couple of questions about model bloat like recently, and I think
Yeah.
this might be the only one that actually made the listener questions cut. And I had this like answer in my head. I was like, no. Like basically, I don't think that model bloat is a problem for this game. I think that more models, more better.
Yeah.
Because the way, like, especially after the interview last week, because if everything's on a curve and most things are like in this range, the more models that they can get in this range, like the harder it is for a more experienced player to be like, oh, I know X and Y and do this and Z handles it this way. But if you bring in like the letter T and you're like, let's do this, like if it's in that same power range, they still might not have an answer for it. So like the more models hit the game, the more likely you're able to just play characters you like who are in the same kind of range of this bell curve of power. And so just bring what you want to play what you like, and ask for advice. And I think that divide will close real quick.
Absolutely. All right. Scruff but gruff. How do you determine what a character / affiliation wants to do in the game / crisis to play tactics cards it wants? What is even good for? Are there glaring signs that we should look for? So I've actually been like talking with him because he's been trying to play X Force. So
Yeah,
he's been hitting.
he came out to our event in Greenville.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a hell of a painter too.
He said, yeah. Like I love his paint jobs. He also said you guys brutally beat him up.
He had first pick at the end of the day. That's all I'll say.
Fair enough. But yeah, anyways, how do you determine what a character / affiliation wants to do in the game? Basically, it comes down to breaking a deck characters down into roles, which we probably might end up doing after the crises. Is talk about role like more. We did talk about role playing. I forgot about that, but I would listen to the role playing episode. That's probably a good one.
Yeah, decent start.
Because this question is honestly like a whole episode probably worth of content to talk about. But short answer, how do you determine, is really just understanding the play patterns of those characters and what they want to be doing. Like we talked about, we actually gave quite a few good examples during this episode, like X-Force on Infinity. Tactics cards, it really comes down to what is the goal, or like what is your roster trying to do? Is my roster trying to be offensive? Is it trying to be defensive? Is it offensive in nature of the characters? Do I need to bring defensive cards because I'm super offensive, or am I super defensive and I need to bring offensive cards because to shore up those differences? Trying to think of other good examples for that, but that's kind of really what it comes down to.
I look at it that way. I look at it in a different way too. I look at it like so Scarlet Witch, for example, I think is a really great character to look at to try and gain this kind of knowledge from somebody. Scarlet Witch has an incredible range 4 6-die builder that counts skulls. So that means that if you post up her at range, 3.5 of an objective, she's going to be able to hit like basically everything that tries to contest that objective with a 6-die builder. Yeah. Right, so that's incredible. It's got great dice too because it counts skulls. But is that really her optimal situation? I'm not sure. She likes to be there because she doesn't like to get attacked. She's got a tactics card that also says like you can't charge me largely, and and is incredibly versatile for lots of other things. But then on top of that, she's got a range 3 spender that's also incredibly potent, and she's got a medium throw. So does she want to be at range 4? Does she want to be at range 3, or does she want to be at effectively range medium? Because she has her best potential output being at range medium, right? Now she's in a lot more danger there. So, that's another thing. It's like, okay, like what's her survivability like? So now it's like, do I want to stay at range 4 and then let them come to me and get into my truly nasty range? Or do I want to, push up and try to make something happen earlier? And so for me, it's less about what a character or affiliation wants to do and more like how I see them kind of living their best life. Right? And like, do I want them to be in the mix or do I want them to be, kind of at the edge of what they're capable of, right? So I played a lot of games with Scarlet Witch recently where I wanted her at range 4 of things, and that isn't always her best look. It's just it's a very efficient look for her. It keeps her very safe, but it's not necessarily her best output point. And I think Cable's another model that has a similar position with his range 5 builder. And then what Ascani Sun is range 2 area.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes it's about modes, right? It's like your character has like one mode where they're like pew 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 at long range, and then they want to get in close and do some real damage. And so it's really, in my opinion, it's more about evaluating pieces, and it's less about evaluating an affiliation than looking at what the pieces bring inside that affiliation and how that couples with the leadership ability. So, like, for if I'm looking at a crisis and I want to see, like, I need like a push and a throw and a couple other things, I'm looking more at the models for that. Right. So when I do roster construction, I'm often looking at like, I want to play this piece. I want to play this piece. I want to play this piece. Hey, lucky me. That's an affiliation or it's not. And it's like, how do I make this work? So, man, there's a tangent and a tangent and a tangent for you. But basically, when you're looking at a character and affiliation, I think you want to look at all of the resources. So if you're looking at an affiliation, you want to look at all the characters in that affiliation and be like, okay, what do these do? So like X-Force is like, we've got good range. We've got some up close and personal stuff. So we're going to play some sort of a blended strategy. Like it's not a focused approach. And say what anybody will about X-Force and where they are on some kind of perceived tier list, but I would say that in minis games, in my experience, and most games in my experience, going all the way to one end of a spectrum is going to produce more interpretable results than playing something that's kind of blended. Right. So if you're a little good at everything versus being really good at one thing, then it's harder to interpret the results of your games when you're like, well, I don't know. I guess they were just better at me than this versus I'm really good at this, but I'm kind of bad at things on this end of the spectrum. So looking at affiliations and characters with that kind of like a min-max lens on, where like, all right, am I the best at what I do? Am I okay at what I do? Am I in the middle of everything, or am I, kind of on an extreme? Those are the things that I look at.
Yeah. Matematic has a really good question, but we're gonna save it for next week because it's a really good question, but we're gonna give it its justice instead of giving you a quick answer on that one. Give me the hand. What is everyone's favorite sculpt, and which is everyone's favorite to paint? Malekith and Malekith, even though I don't have it yet, but that is by far my favorite sculpt. Favorite to paint though, honestly, like I really enjoyed painting Sinister. It just when it's just one of those models that I was painting and I was like, this just happened. 1 minute I'm sitting there, and next thing I know it's done. I really enjoyed painting Sinister a lot, actually. My favorite sculpt is absolutely Malekith though. Go ahead.
In general, I like the big boys. I would say that the models that make me most excited are the ones that I've done mods on. I don't want to mod every model. I'm not like the hobbyist. It's just like, I've got this model. What do I do with it to make it uniquely mine? But there are occasionally a character where I'm like, this is a really cool sculpt. Golly, I sure wish it looked like this. And then like kind of take some extra efforts to make it look more like that than their models. Like I have a Captain Marvel that I did in her like black and red outfit instead of the blue one. That was basically just a paint job. Like that's the kind of stuff that I really like. Favorite sculpt would probably be Hulkbuster at this point. Malekith's coming. Yeah. He looks gorgeous, but
I mean, you could say Malekith.
You'd like that, wouldn't I?
I would.
Juggernaut was another one for me. I really liked my Juggernaut. I did a yellow Juggernaut, and I didn't do any washes on him. I was like painstakingly layering that stuff, and like I really had a good time with it. I wouldn't trust myself to do that on any other model, but it worked well on him.
I used to love layering, and then Monument came out with the transparent paints, and I was like, this is so much easier just to paint
It's
and
the
then
same
bring it.
thing.
It is you're still layering, but you're able to like. I feel like with like the transparency, you're able to like push the boundaries of your highlight and not be afraid you went too far. That's what I love about the transparent paints is I get like I love the highlights that I'm able to get with the transparent paints, and then you just slap that bad boy on there, and the next thing you know, it's like everything's like perfectly blended, and you're like, I don't even know how this magic voodoo works. Like,
I can gush about Monument paints
Yeah.
forever.
Love
So they're
if
fantastic.
anybody's running out of paint, needs a paint supply, I highly recommend just go buy the whole entire line. It's worth it. They last forever too. Like I think I've had like I bought them when they first came out, and I still have paint that I haven't used up yet. Anyways,
one little thing on that note, like if like we've got a local store that started carrying Monument paints,
Oh,
and, like,
really?
they're the
Lucky
only
you.
store in like the whole area that's got them. And so like
Yeah.
I would strongly encourage you that if you decide to do something like switch over your entire paint line, talk to your local store about it, because
Yeah.
like they like making money. So ask them to order that stuff for you, and then like maybe they'll get a whole display set up, and then they're making money, and everybody in your group starts to discover the wonder that is Monument paints.
Absolutely. All right, last question. Kenny, shame. What are some underrated characters, abilities, leaderships in the game? Shame for not listening to our episodes and realizing that's one of the sales pitch of the week. What has a bad rep that maybe shouldn't? Listen to all of our episodes and find out what the sales pitch of the week's was. No, in all seriousness, what are some underrated characters? I think the biggest one that jumps out to me recently is probably Sinister, because I'm playing the crap out of him and I love him, and I'm like, why did I ever not like this character? He gets a bad rap because he's just like, there's so many other fours that do similar things but supposedly better. But he's like the tankiest out of all of them. He is the tankiest dude with a bow. He's a medium base. Like I think I've had Sinister die maybe 2 or 3 times over 20 something games. I don't know. I lost count where I'm at. I don't have my sheet in front of me. But
You
like,
send Sinister into Hulk, and he's probably going to go down, but he's going to take way longer than that Hulk wants him to.
yeah, and then plus you could just bow him to make him have to waste his power on jumping.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
like Sinister's great. I love Sinister so much. He's been so much fun. I'm so glad that I found a list that I can actually play him in and feel good playing him there. Your turn.
Nice. I'm gonna go with She-Hulk for mine. She-Hulk, 20 health bodyguard. Like she gets a bad rap because she's only got the 3 physical defense, and like yeah, she'll burn down faster than you might think she would. If she's getting focus fired, but you can put her in
Punisher.
good situations, and we've already covered that one, man. I've said Punisher like so many times before for this same question, Kenny, who doesn't actually listen to the show. So I think that She-Hulk is my my answer for this week. She's a fun character. She's great. Weight training's amazing,
All right, so thank you for stopping by.
especially into
watch.
Malekith meta.
I'll start again. In the Malekith meta, we don't tell those things. All right, thank you for stopping by to watch and listen to our contents. We truly hope you enjoyed it and look forward to more content. I need to reword this. Anyways, thanks for coming by and hanging out. If you want to become a patron, you know where to go.
Oh,
If you want to come join our Discord, you know where to go. It'll be in the show notes if you don't know where to go. And of course,
We're here for you.
Of course, we have been the Rogue Agents, and you have been the listener. I always feel weird saying that at the end, because I try to like phrase it weird.
Perfectly balanced.
Maximum effort. In this war, there's no surrender. He's out of line, but he's right. Who the hell is Bucky? Don't. You don't like a fair fight. I think you're wrong.
Fair fight.
What about fair fight? Fair fight.
You're the only superhero in the world. Touche.